I shall be sharing with you a perspective on the spiritual journey and WTs. But WTs, I mean not whole-timers, but wisdom teachers. So you can all be WTs, you can all be wisdom teachers. So I'll begin by giving you an overview. There is nothing as old as the truth and nothing as new as the truth. Truth can only be held in a yogya patra, which means a qualified recipient. And both the teacher and the disciple must be genuine and deserving. Ishta is the personal embodiment of the truth. Adarsha is the ideal that invokes reverence. And conduct rules are the rules of the road that bring accelerated movement. And the mission is that which provides the opportunity to engage with the world and test our patience and resolve to attain the highest stance of excellence. So, in 1967, when the master was leaving India for the first time, I happened to be at the Delhi airport, and he was sitting in that lounge, VIP lounge, and on a sofa, and I was sitting just by his side. And he said, in the business world, you always keep some trade secret. But in the spiritual world, the guru does not keep any trade secret, because the relationship of the master, or the guru and the disciple, is a family relationship. The father may not be very rich, but he would always like his children to be more prosperous than him. The parents may not be educated, but they want their children to be more learned and more educated than them. So he says, likewise, I also want that you should attain the pinnacle of human glory. You should attain the highest stance of spiritual elevation. And if by your own efforts you are not able to get there, I will make sure that you get there, because that is the purpose for which I have come on this earth. So that is a great blessing that such teachers, they come on this earth to guide us, to help us, to make sure that we attain the highest level of spiritual attainment. So the first step is that we are not even aware of what is the spiritual dimension. So bulk of their work is just to make us conscious of what that spiritual dimension is all about. It's not an easy one to grasp, because it's not something, the spirit or the soul or the consciousness is not something which you can perceive with these eyes. We have the eyes to see, but we can't see. We can only see a very small microscopic part of this creation is what can be comprehended through our senses. So that's the limitation, that we have to rely on something else to fathom the spiritual world, beyond the world of senses. And then we have the mind, but the mind also has its limitations, even though it is a vast arena, psychic arena, mental arena. There is a lot of things which human beings have been able to perform or do with the help of this mind. We have touched the stars and we have crossed the galaxies. We can go and, we can, through nanotechnologies, we can fathom the invisible in the most minutest particles of this creation. But still, there are limits to what the mind can perform, what the mind can do. So there is another dimension which is beyond the mind, that is the spiritual dimension. And that's even harder to comprehend. And yet that is where we, the role of the master, the role of the guru is very important, because firstly, those gurus who have attained that dimension, they are very rare to find. There are many people who are posing as the gurus in this world and who have become the custodians of this spiritual wisdom and wealth, but they are just pseudo spiritualists. With a higher level of mind, they are able to say something or awaken something in us. But so the real guru is one who puts us in contact with our highest inner self, because the real guru is inside of us, is that highest self. So the function of the external master or the external teacher is to help us to connect with that highest inner self. So that's the beauty of this spiritual journey. So I will share some aspects of it. But before we get into that, I thought let's begin to have a perspective of where we stand today, And I'll go through it very hurriedly because this is something which you already know, but I think it's good to start from here. Well, we say that this universe took birth about 13.8 billion years ago. It may be more, it may be less, doesn't matter, but it's some long time ago. And then 13.6 billion years ago, there was birth of the Milky Way. And then 4.6 billion years ago, the Earth was formed. And then the Moon. And 4.45 billion years ago, the Earth, had only 7 hours long day. And then 4.28 billion years ago, water started condensing into liquid form, then organic life, and then unicellular life protozoa, and oxygen in the atmosphere. And then 510 million years ago, vertebrates in oceans. Then plants and coral reefs appeared about over 420 million years ago. And on, like 300 million years ago, reptiles. 350 million years ago, transition from ocean to land, and 250 million years ago, Gondwana land, when the earth was just one piece landmass, that was Gondwana land. And then 230 million years ago, dinosaurs, 199 million years ago, flying reptiles, 55 million years ago, meteors, impact, mass extension of dinosaurs. And then 45 million years ago, modern mammals appeared, and then chimpanzees and hominids diverged from a common ancestor. 54 million years ago, fingernails evolved. 25 million years ago, thumb developed. And 3.5 million years ago, pelvic shape needed to walk straight. 1.8 million years ago, foot arch. 2 million years ago, brain ballooned in size. 1.4 million years ago, hominids used controlled fires. 1 million years ago, humans evolved with naked skin. And 200,000 years ago, chin. 70,000 years ago, and fictive languages. 45,000 years ago, sapiens settle in Australia, extinction of megafauna. 15,000 years ago, Rig Veda appeared, began to be composed. 13,000 years ago, extinction of Homo floresiensis, Homo sapiens, only surviving species. 12,000 agricultural revolution. 10,000 years ago, Yajurveda began to be composed. 7,000 years ago, Atharvaveda composed, invention of Sanskrit language, birth of Shiva. 6,000 years ago, pictorial script developed in China. 4,500 years ago, pyramids of Gaza were built. 3,500 years ago, Sankhya philosophy of Maharishi Kapil and the birth of Krishna. 2,500 years ago, birth of Panini, invention of coinage, Buddhism and Jainism in India. 2,300 years ago, Patanjali codifies yoga as Ashtanga yoga. 2,000 years ago, Han Empire in China, Roman Empire, Christianity. 1,500 years ago, Adi Shankaracharya. 1,400 years ago, Islam came. 200 years ago, Nath cult, Matsendranath, Kashmiri Shaivism with Abhinav Gupta is one of its exponents. And 500 years ago, scientific cognitive revolution, birth of capitalism. 200 years ago, industrial revolution, and 40 years ago, digital revolution begins. 5 years ago, artificial intelligence, robotics begin to become widely popular, and intelligence and consciousness begin to get decoupled. Means the reason I have mentioned all this is because here we are all sitting and we just did not come out of nowhere. There is a history behind this physical body. This physical body is carrying that, entire millions of years of evolution, which has, and so many things which were developed, even this thumb, even these fingernails, even these hands, these things just did not come overnight that, okay, we give birth and the child is born and we take it for granted. But there is a history behind it. And it's a very fascinating, history that, out of these millions of sperms, only one survives. So that it is said that is, we already won the race. So we have never to be a loser in our life because we are the winners, that we are in this body and we are living on this earth. That itself is a very positive thing. That means we have crossed many hurdles. And if we could cross all those hurdles over these millions and millions of years, we can cross any hurdle which will come on our way. And so we can attain something which may at this time appear to us something far-fetched and something very, very difficult to grasp and difficult to know. But if we have crossed, this long journey, then it would be possible for us to even reach there. That is why, many years ago, our master Baba, he had said that what the cosmic mind has been doing on this earth for, such a long time will continue to be done by the unit minds, by the human minds in gradual steps. Like, this universe has been running. There is data in this universe. Now, it was being managed by the cosmic forces, and gradually human beings, they begin to use that information. They are able to access that information and using the technology, what we call artificial intelligence. It is not really artificial, it is also an extension of the native intelligence, natural intelligence. So we just have to consider that all these developments in science and technology, they are not outside the scope of human evolution. They are part and parcel of human growth and human evolution. So we have reached a certain point in our physical development, and we have attained certain stage in our psychic development, but there is a scope for a lot more. And if we are not careful, we can also regress. That also happens. For example, there were 70,000 years ago, there was not much difference between human beings and many other species. We used to live in the same forest and we were, competing for the same ecosystem. But somehow, today, human beings, Homo sapiens, they have, surpassed all the other species, and they have become subservient to us. And I think this is what Yuval Harari, the Israeli historian who wrote some famous books, he has been telling that it is quite likely that this economic inequalities which are present today in the world, that can get translated into biological inequalities. And most of the human beings, they will become subservient to a new breed of humans who will have access to those technologies. Everybody else may not have. For example, you may have certain implants in your ears that you can hear what the different animals can hear, but we cannot hear. Human ear cannot hear. But with the help of those implants, we can amplify our capacities. We can have, eye implants, we can have brain implants, which might allow us to perform actions or do things which might have much stronger, capability. Already the scientists now, they are working, taking through genetic research, they are taking out those elements from different things which, when extracted and brought together, can help us to produce shoes, for example, that we can jump 20 feet, 15, 30 feet, 40 feet from the ground with just one jump. just by the nature of the material which they use in those, in those shoes. Similarly, we could make materials, with which we can make this heart or different organs of the body, which deteriorate over a period of time. They may last, for 100 years or 200 years. So there is lot of positive developments also, which will come when human beings are able to use their developed powers, their developed faculties. But the question is whether that will help us to bring a more peaceful society, whether it will help us to create one universal society where everybody can be happy, or that everybody will become subservient to a small group of people who will control through the technology and through the monetary system, or So that's where is the big tension today is. What kind of socio-economic system must be put into place which will not allow the exploitation of the other human beings to take place? And this dialogue, even though it has come into public space, for example, I think you all know about Thomas Piketty, his work on concentration of wealth, even though he has brought this discussion into public space, but no government and no people, they are really have bought it, that is the problem. It's somehow, it's the media is not allowing it to make it the major issue. And I think for the Prout movement, this is the biggest issue of the lifetime, is how to create a system in which there is minimum disparities of economic wealth. And but that is a subject which we'll come to later. But